Hello and welcome to the Gospel and Grounds podcast. My name is Jeremy. I am a church planter and a pastor, and I'm here with my good friend Brandon Bauer, who is a pastor and a theologian. And this podcast is about drinking hot coffee and talking about hot topics that affect you and the church, the Bible, and theology today. Let's jump in. Well, good morning, Brandon.
Good morning, Jeremy.
It is morning again in Pickens, and we're sitting here in an empty house.
We are. Yep, we're at a folding table.
We are.
But we are facing each other this time.
Which is, usually we're kind of like 90-degree angle across from each other. So this feels a little more like a date than like we're recording a podcast.
Also kind of feels like we're talking to each other.
Yeah, which is good.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. We do have some coffee today.
We do have some coffee from a local place.
Yes, our close friend Trey's favorite coffee shop, Coyote Coffee. We love you, Trey. I don't know if you listen to this podcast, but we love you. This is their Columbia blend. It's 100% Arabica bean, ethically sourced, all the good stuff.
It's shade grown.
Shade grown. I didn't even know that was a thing, that you grew coffee beans in the shade. Maybe we're showing our ignorance, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It is pretty good. It's pretty good, kind of like talking about eschatology.
Yep.
Yeah,
also,
like that segue.
Coyote Coffee, not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
No. Yes, eschatology is where we're at, and we got some darker coffee because we're going to talk about some darker subjects.
All right, so we for the past I would say past couple weeks, but we're kind of doing like a mini series with eschatology. Right. So there's a little bit of episodes coming out, in a faster pace than normal. And the past couple of episodes, we've kind of introduced eschatology. What is eschatology? We've kind of done like some 30,000 foot view type stuff.
Yeah, we kind of broke down how to read apocalyptic literature. We broke down, preterist and historicist and futurist in just a little bit, and we'll be diving a little bit more into those again. But for today, we're going to kind of move through a little bit of like the Olivet Discourse. We're going to talk about trumpets, seals, all sorts of good stuff.
Trumpets and seals. That's funny. Sorry, because immediately I started thinking about, like the animal.
Oh, those seals that have the little like ball horns and they bloop them with their nose.
Yeah. Okay, that's not what we're talking about.
That would be a way less intimidating way for the seals and trumpets to be.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. Let me tell you, man. Before we jump in, I have legitimately have a fear complex of the trumpets.
Oh, really?
Because all the movies and stuff I watched that like it's like when the trumpet blares, and if you're still on Earth, I grew up in a dispensational household, so like if I hear a trumpet, I'm like, I'm still here. Oh no! It's a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
Like whenever you're like home alone and your kid, and you walk up and no one's home and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this, but like it just kind of,
or you leave your room as a child and you don't know where your parents are, and really they're just out in the yard or like talking to a neighbor, and you're just like, oh no,
it happened. All right, so today we're going to be moving out of the purely systematic matrix and jumping headfirst into some actual text. So if you want to understand how the global church has read the book of Revelation, you cannot start in Revelation.
No, you have to start a little bit further back, and where we're starting is at the Olivet Discourse.
And where's that located?
That is
in the text
in Matthew 24 and Luke 21.
I would say it's in Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's also in Jerusalem.
Okay, so in Matthew 24, Luke 21, if you have your Bibles, you can flip there. That'd be awesome. If you're listening, that's great. We will reference some different actual scripture references, but I encourage you to go read those. And here's what happens. So Jesus is exiting the temple courts, his disciples kind of operating like tourists, because remember, the disciples and Jesus are not from Jerusalem.
They're country boys from up north.
From up north. So when they're going to Jerusalem, it's kind of like, whoa.
Yep.
So they're marveling at the massive kind of white and gold Herodian architecture, which is the temple. So remember, this is the second temple, and it's very ornate.
Yes.
And beautiful. It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's kind of like, it's grandiose.
Well, and they're about to talk about the stones too. And I don't know if y'all have seen the stones at the temple, but they're huge. Like we still don't know how they got those stones there with the technology that they had.
Yeah. So they're walking, and then Jesus kind of drops this theological bomb on them, this is Matthew 24, verse 2. And he says, "Truly I say to you, not one stone here," being the temple, "will be left upon another. Everyone will be thrown down."
Yeah, and the disciples do what I know I would do, and probably all of us would do. They immediately start asking questions like, okay, well, when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? All that stuff.
Yeah, and so, which this is fair. Like Jesus is walking out, and you see this really beautiful looking building, and all of a sudden Jesus is like, "Hey, this building, not going to be here.
Yep.
All the stones thrown down, all that kind of stuff." So, let's get into kind of some insights, kind of a micro versus macro view of. This is funny. One little piece of of a verse.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeremy, you use the NET a lot.
I do. NET is one of my favorite translations.
You also use a version called the Tree of Life version. Tell us about that before we talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll talk about both of these. So the NET Full Notes Edition, I love because it has all the footnotes, and I'm a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And
what are footnotes?
So the footnotes are, if you're reading the text of your Bible, there's these little italicized texts at the bottom, depending on what version you have, that tell you what a word means or where a reference can be found. And the NET Full Notes Edition literally has full notes. So some pages have more notes on them than they have scripture. That's how that works.
This is kind of like a study Bible.
Yeah.
But less. Yeah.
Yep. And the TLV, the Tree of Life version, is a version of the Bible that was translated from the original Greek and Hebrew text by Greek and Hebrew people. And so it includes a lot of the original Hebrew names of God, and it's a very literal translation of what happened. So what we're going to look through is this term "end of the age" in Hebrew thought.
End of the age. Yeah. So in Hebrew thought, end of the age didn't automatically mean the destruction of the physical planet, which for some odd reason, like in our world today, like when we say end of the age, we immediately think like the earth is going to blow up. That's not what the Jewish people thought, right?
Yeah, it meant the transition of the current. The Hebrew word is olam hazeh, the present age of corruption, into the olam haba, which is the age to come.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Very poetic.
It is. So yeah, Jesus warns them of this imminent, hyper-localized geopolitical crisis when he says in Luke 21, verses 20 through 21, "When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its desolation has come near. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains."
Okay, so let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because this is where we start getting into a lot of different, futurists and preterists and all that kind of stuff. So Jesus is anchoring this with a definitive, inescapable chronological boundary marker.
And that's found in Matthew 24, verse 34, when he says, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place."
Oh, wait a minute. What?
Yep. And I've heard lots of different interpretations for this, from the generation of World War II is what they're talking about. So he's coming back now.
Okay,
or
that's wild. I've never heard that.
You haven't heard that?
No.
They say that it starts when Jerusalem became a nation again, or Israel became a nation again. And so that happened right after the Second World War. And so
that's wild.
As all of the greatest generation is dying off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now as they're dying off now.
Yeah, they're saying that, well, now's the time.
Okay, that's super interesting. I had not heard that. Okay, so yes, Jesus says, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place."
Yep.
Again, he's talking about, put this in context of the text. Jesus had said before about the temple stones. Yes. He's also talking about, if you take Matthew and Luke together, He's also talking about Jerusalem being surrounded by armies.
Specifically, yes.
Yes. So in biblical, okay. I'm trying not to be snarky.
Yeah, I can tell.
Let me just say, okay.
We're making a concerted effort to
Yes.
try to be as objective as possible.
Yeah. So in biblical and historical reckoning, a generation is roughly 40 years.
Okay.
Okay. So remember, like so Christ uttered these words around AD 30.
Right. Because
this is for dating. If you're like, wait a minute, but wasn't Jesus like 33 when he died?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got some of our dates messed up.
Yep.
Just kind of historically. So Jesus was actually born like 3 BC.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just kind of 3 or 4 BC, which is kind of funny. He was born before he was born.
Fast forward, we've been working on season 2, so we'll talk more about that this Christmas.
Yep. We will. Okay, so Jesus is uttering these words around AD 30, and then exactly 40 years later, which again would be kind of a generation.
Yep.
In AD 70, the Roman legions did precisely what Jesus described.
Yeah, and according to one of my favorite commentaries, trying to force this generation to mean a 21st century audience completely ignores the immediate audience relevance of the first century disciples sitting there with Jesus.
And honestly, it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's me being snarky, so I apologize. But it just kind of like, you don't have to fit a bunch of stuff. Once you realize the historical like significance of it, you're like,
Right.
oh, that's what Jesus was saying. Okay. All right. But there,
Yeah, I'll talk about the futurists.
yeah, why don't you do that?
Yeah, so the futurist caveat here is that, to maintain an entirely future application, the futurist scholars must interpret the Greek word for generation, genea, as meaning a race of people. The Jewish race will survive until the end. Or argue it refers exclusively to the specific future generation that sees the modern rebirth of Israel or the initial signs. So this would be what we were referring to earlier as the greatest generation, the generation of World War II, would see these things happen.
Yeah. So this is.
Which we're kind of running out of time with that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, I'm totally okay for Jesus coming back.
Oh, I want him to come back. If he came back right now, that'd be great. I wouldn't have to move
awesome.
the rest of the stuff out of my house,
It'd be so awesome. So it's not like we're saying like, oh, we've got a lot of time. Like we don't know.
We don't know.
What we're trying to point to is in this Olivet Discourse where we start to kind of see, some talkings of what could be considered apocalyptic, what we've traditionally seen as apocalyptic literature. We have to put it in context. We have to read that in context. And in the literary context, what is Jesus saying and how is he saying it within the Gospel of Matthew and Luke? But then also in the historical context, like what happened, what's happening. And here's the thing. To understand the now layer of biblical prophecy, we have to look at what actually happened, like I said, when the Roman Empire struck back. But this isn't just theology. This is like history, okay?
Yeah. And so, we're going to look at our friend Josephus a little bit here and then a little bit in some other sources. But one of my favorite sources I use when I'm doing this thing is the Jewish Annotated New Testament.
Nice.
So it notes that first century Judea was a pressure cooker of religious zeal and Roman oppression. We can see this, even in Jesus's day because, he was crucified with 2 people who took part in an uprising.
Yep.
So in AD 66, the Jewish populace finally snapped, launching a fierce armed revolt and slaughtering a local garrison of Roman soldiers. Not good.
Yeah, no small feat either.
No small feat, but not good.
Yeah.
So the emperor at the time, Vespasian, he was brilliant, and his son was brilliant too. But he was ruthless as well. His son Titus, and he dispatched him to make a brutal public example out of Jerusalem. It's scorched earth is what he's doing here.
Yeah.
The goal: ensure no other colony would ever dare try to stage a coup against the iron fist of Rome again.
Yeah, and this is kind of what Rome did.
Yeah.
We'd always, they talk about Pax Romana, and it's like, there's peace. It's like, well, there's peace because you told people not to.
Peace through strength.
Yeah. All right, so if you read through the first century historical records of, say his first name again,
Flavius
Josephus. So Josephus, let's just say this. Josephus is Jewish. However, he's Jewish with a how do you say this? Diplomatically, with a persuasion towards Rome.
Well, and yeah, he's an interesting study because he was at the last kind of zealot compound when the Romans came in with the zealots, and then somehow gets adopted by the emperor of Rome.
Yeah, essentially, what we want to put Josephus is he's got the ability to kind of move in the direction of where he needs to move to keep his life.
Yes.
So he is Jewish, but he also will do things to preserve his life. And so in order to preserve his life, he somehow made the Romans like him enough.
Yep.
But anyways, he has historical writings that he wrote. One of those is called The Jewish War. And this details the siege that when Rome's armies kind of came in, completely encircling the city walls, cutting off all food supplies. Okay, this is just, a normal siege.
Yeah.
But so Josephus records a couple different things. He records internal famine. So the baseline hunger was so devastating that citizens chewed the raw leather off their sandals, shields, and belts just for fiber.
Ugh. Yeah, there was a lot of family members weaponized themselves against one another, tearing scraps of garbage or moldy bread out of the mouths of their own children.
Yeah, and then the ultimate horror, in one infamous account, a wealthy woman named Mary of Bethzuba, driven mad by starvation, tragically killed, roasted, and consumed half of her own infant child, literally fulfilling the ancient covenant curses laid out in Deuteronomy 28.
Dang.
Now, we're not just like getting this out of it. Like Josephus wrote about this.
Yep.
This is like a pretty, this is a historical account. This is what was happening because of the Roman siege.
Yeah.
And then we get to the fall of the house.
Well, and let's just note here too, this is evidence of an early New Testament too, because in all of the Pauline letters, there's never a siege of Jerusalem mentioned.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a sidebar. It's not about eschatology, but
a little sidebar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Titus, the general, also the son of the Roman emperor, finally breached the inner walls. The Roman soldiers plundered the temple courts, slaughtered the remaining priests on the altars. Yikes.
Yep.
And set the entire structure ablaze.
That sounds like an abomination that causes desolation in the holy place.
Yes. So the heat was so intense that the gold detailing melted and ran down into the crevices between the massive stone blocks. To salvage the gold, Roman soldiers literally pried apart every single stone, fulfilling Jesus' literal words in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke.
Yep.
So, and we don't have a temple today.
Nope, we don't.
We don't see it. Now, I think there's actually a mosque that's been built on where the temple is at.
On part of it.
Yep.
So let's talk about my favorite wrestling stable, the Four Horsemen.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ollie Anderson. I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Did you mention 4 people?
No, I was trying to remember the last guy's name. Tully Blanchard. That's it.
That's what I was waiting for. I was like,
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it was 3.
Arn, Ollie, Tully, Rick. Yep. I could see his face, and his name was just nowhere to be found.
Okay.
I mean, you could also say Sting or Sid Justice or, Chris Benoit, Brian Pillman. I could keep going.
Yeah, I don't know any of these people. Okay. So we've now laid kind of a historical ground. I think we're showing our cards a little bit about where we're kind of following. We've already shown.
We've
already shown our cards. We're kind of in that preterist view, but we're also showing historically, like, this stuff happened.
Yes,
and it's pretty likely this is what Jesus was talking about when he was talking to his disciples.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move into talking about the Four Horsemen matrix.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with the white horse. So the traditional symbol of the white horse is conquest or deception. The futurist views this person as someone called the Antichrist. Now, Paul mentions that we will see antichrists with an S at the end, but the futurist view sees one ultimate Antichrist as like the central figure in the tribulation portion of Revelation.
Real quick,
I just realized we didn't talk about where Four Horsemen come from.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
So when we open up Revelation chapter 6, John sees the Lamb break the seals
Yep.
on the scrolls, unleashing, is it one of the scrolls? Ooh, I can't remember. Anyways,
Yeah.
he's breaking a seal. It unleashes the infamous Four Horsemen. So the Bible Project kind of reminds us, hey, John isn't making up these images from scratch. He's drawing from Old Testament blueprints, which is what we commonly see.
Yeah, it's in Zechariah 1 and Zechariah 6.
Yep. Okay, so now let's
sorry.
dissect how these different systems decode these identical.
So in the text, the white horse is a rider with a bow and a crown riding out as a conqueror bent on conquest. Now, the futurist, as we were talking about, sees this as the rise of a charismatic geopolitical future antichrist who enters the world stage under the guise of deceptive diplomacy and false peace.
Okay, so that's the futurist view. The preterist and narrative view, even that kind of sounds snarky, but anyways. This represents the historical reality of Roman imperial expansion. So Roman generals literally rode into victory triumphs on white stallions.
Yeah, Pilate would have rode into Jerusalem on Passover week on a white stallion.
Yep, they'd be crowned with laurels, symbolizing, which laurels are like the leaf crowns, symbolizing this seemingly unstoppable march of empire.
Yep. And our next horse is red.
Red.
The text says that this is a rider granted permission to take peace from the earth so that people would butcher one another wielding a massive sword.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the futurists view this of the unleashing of some sort of global military forces resulting in World War III.
Okay. The preterist, and we've talked about Scott McKnight a little bit.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, I wish. This is kind of an insight from him. He's got a book called Revelation for the Rest of Us, and he emphasizes that Rome's Pax Romana. Thank you. Good Lord, I've messed that up multiple times. This is the peace of Rome was a complete illusion. We kind of already hinted at this.
Yeah.
It was a peace built entirely on subjugation and slaughter of people who decided they want to be underneath Rome anymore. Dissidents. So the red horse represents the relentless shedding of Christian, Jewish, and
Provincial.
Thank you. Provincial blood through Roman gladiatorial arenas and state-sponsored executions.
It's kind of like that joke sign that you see that says the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah. So this is goodness. No, I'm not going to say it. We're going to move on to the next one,
which is the black horse.
Yes.
The text tells us this is a rider holding a pair of scales, and a voice cries out, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine." So the universally agreed meaning is crushing economic inflation and catastrophic famine.
Yeah. The textual context for this is notice that the luxury items, the oil and the wine, these are not necessary items.
Yep.
Are left untouched, while the staple foods, wheat and barley, these are things you can make bread and stuff out of, skyrocket to a full day's wages for a single meal.
Yep.
Which is wild. In the historical AD 70 siege, the wealthy elite inside Jerusalem hoarded luxury goods while the common citizens starved to death.
We don't see that happen anymore, do we?
Oh.
The pale horse. The pale horse is, the text tells us, a sickly green pale horse whose rider's name is Death, with Hades following close behind him. So what do we see here?
Yeah, the ultimate consequence is the inevitable compounding reality of what happens when you combine conquest, war, and famine is the grim cleanup crew of human empire. Death.
Yep.
It just leads to death.
Yep. And that is the same no matter what view you have.
Yeah. So I think, we have the futurist view, I think, for those last two, because we kind of gave a futurist view for the first two. The futurist view would be hyperinflation. I think we can all agree this is something that happens consistently.
Yeah.
And then the futurist view for that last one's kind of like global depopulation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you were to take a full preterist view, it would be like the AD 70 siege famine is what we're talking about with that third horse, and then Roman military ruin. Ultimately, if we want to hyper contextualize that just to Rome, it would be Roman military ruin for that pale horse. Okay.
So let's talk about some apocalyptic astronomy, shall we?
Stars
and suns.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
So we're going to close today by addressing the ultimate trap of modern Western readers, which is apocalyptic astronomy. Why don't you read Revelation 6:12 for us?
Yes, it says the CERN. The CERN.
Now you are showing your cards.
The CERN.
You're going to talk about how they turned CERN off, and now all of a sudden that we got a cornucopia back on the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Oh, dear. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair.
Yeah.
The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth.
Yep. So if you read this like a 21st century American newspaper, you picture a literal astrophysical anomaly, meteorites smashing into the crust, planets colliding, and the solar system collapsing. But if we use John's actual dictionary, the Old Testament, we see something entirely different. What is it? What do we see here, Brandon?
He's using the standard established apocalyptic verbiage of the day to capture political earthquakes.
Yep. So if we use the Old Testament sort of like a Rosetta Stone, right?
Yes.
If we look at how the prophets use these exact phrases in Isaiah 13, Isaiah uses identical cosmic language, the sun being darkened, the moon refusing light, the stars falling, to describe the historical fall of ancient Babylon to the Medes.
Whoa.
Yeah, the literal sun didn't burn out in 539 BC.
Obviously not.
Yeah, rather, the political light of Babylon was extinguished.
Yes, and then we also see in Ezekiel chapter 32, Ezekiel employs the exact same terminology to chronicle God's historic judgment against the political leadership of Egypt. Pharaoh, now who was Pharaoh?
He was the king of Egypt.
He was the king of Egypt, but in Egyptian mythology, who was Pharaoh?
He was Ra, the sun god.
The sun god, right? He was literally the sun god, like embodied.
Yep.
And so when he fell, the sun went dark.
For real.
For real.
Yep.
So this is we have to remember in ancient Near East and in the Roman world, the sun, the moon, and the stars represented rulers, emperors, deities, and high-ranking governing authorities.
Yeah, we talked about this a good bit in our Angels and Demons episode.
Yeah, this is a pretty common trope throughout the ancient Near East in their mythologies. But we also see in Genesis, we see that the sun, the moon, and the stars are set up as kind of like a heavenly host.
Yes.
So when we start talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars, we should switch our mental encyclopedia to think, okay, what would they have started thinking of?
Right. Yeah. Go from text to context and put on our ancient Hebrew glasses to understand. So when John describes stars falling and the sun going black, he isn't predicting a literal cosmic collapse meant for a telescope. He is using radical, subversive poetry to tell the early church that the seemingly permanent, rock-solid power structures of the Roman Empire are about to be violently shaken and brought down by the true King of Kings.
Yeah, it's not a script for an end-of-world disaster movie. It is a pastoral declaration that Babylon is not eternal, that Rome is not eternal, that Assyria is not eternal.
Yep.
Only the kingdom of the Lamb will stand.
Yep. That's good. That's a good place to end.
That is a good place to end.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's probably more we could say.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me also tell you this, because we're talking about sun, moon, stars. Anytime there's a blood moon, I remember growing up, I was like, this is it.
There's a blood moon. It's the Feast of Trumpets. It's happening.
It's happening. It's happening. Or I remember when I was in college, there was a complete solar eclipse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it went right over where I went to college. And I remember some people like talking and saying like, this is it.
Yep.
The sun's going dark. And it's like, okay.
Make sure you change your underwear because it's going to get left behind.
Anyways, I just remember being struck with a lot of fear in those moments. So yes, let's end there for this episode.
Yeah. So next week we'll step into the most controversial timeline of them all, and that's the 42 months, the identity of the two witnesses, and the real meaning behind the mark of the beast.
Oh my goodness, the mark of the beast.
So keep your eyes on the text, remember the context, and walk in the peace of the King. Maranatha, come Lord Jesus.
Come Lord Jesus. That's a good place.
Yep. For Gospel and Grounds, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Brandon.
And we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Gospel and Grounds podcast. This is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Our theme music was provided by the band Splitwave. And if you'd like to learn more about this podcast and others, you can visit evergreentn.cc. As always, we bless you to grow in the way of Jesus together.